morning.
Morning.
I am Andre Riley, the Executive Director of Communications for City Schools, and I am not the featured speaker today. However, I just want to welcome all of you to City Schools to hear about a very exciting project that we have. I want to lay some ground rules before we get the event started. Number one, we'll have a couple of presenters, speakers. That'll talk to you about this great announcement. And then after that, we'll just go to a quick Q&A. The Q&A will proceed as follows. Myself or my colleague, Sherry Christian, when we get to it, you'll raise your hand and then we'll point you out and then you'll be able to ask your questions. We hope you stay on topic because we've got, again, a really great announcement. But now that all hearts and minds are clear, I'm going to pass the ball to our CEO, Dr. Sonja Santelises.
Thank you, Andre, and good morning. Thank you all for joining us this morning for this real important event. It is important for our schools, our city, and most importantly, for our young people. I am pleased to welcome Mayor Brandon Scott, our Board of School Commissioners Chair, Johnette Richardson, and elected officials from across the city. I am pleased to have with us today Senator Mary Washington, Councilman Mark Conway, Councilwoman Sharon Middleton, Councilwoman Odette Ramos, and Councilman Robert Stokes, and Councilman James Torrance. Did I get everybody? Just making sure. Okay, good. Very good. So, and part of why we're here is because we are thrilled that our high school building plan, which encompasses 5 schools in 4 buildings, represents the next phase of 21st Century Buildings program. This was funded by $400 million from the Build to Learn legislation, as well as funding from City Schools and Baltimore City. We are grateful to the legislature, the city, and all our partners at the local and state level for helping us to take this next important step for students in Baltimore City. In phase 1 of the 21st Century program, we focused on creating state-of-the-art learning environments. 28 school buildings in all, in neighborhoods that had been historically underserved and under-resourced. They were losing population, and where we had to close school buildings that were antiquated and, in a word, inadequate to serve the needs of our young people and their families. As a result, thousands of our students now benefit from 21st century facilities where they can develop the skills and knowledge they need to thrive and lead. In our next phase, we will be renovating 5 citywide high schools in 4 buildings, serving nearly 7,000 students across the city. Baltimore City College, Western High School, Baltimore Polytechnic Institute, and Frederick Douglass High School, who will be sharing their renovated building with Joseph C. Briscoe Academy. These are some of our largest and most historic high schools. Baltimore City College was founded in 1839 and the 3rd oldest active public high school in the nation. It is also home now to an internationally recognized international baccalaureate program that excels and leads in the awarding of IB diplomas to African American students. Western High School, founded in 1844 and the oldest all-girl high school in the U.S. And I hear chuckles because many of our elected officials and people attending now are graduates of Western High School. Baltimore Polytechnic Institute, founded in 1883 and continues to be one of the preeminent STEM high schools in the nation, currently ranked number 24. Frederick, and by the way, I will also add, now one of the few high schools in the state of Maryland that can claim a Nobel Prize in physics. Frederick Douglass High School, founded in 1883, and the 2nd oldest high school in the United States, opened to African American students. We made this decision because our high schools and middle high schools are citywide, serving students across the city. Structural improvements to these large, older buildings are significantly more expensive than renovations in buildings serving the lower grades, and we would not be able to get this critically important job done without these additional funds being provided. With that, I am pleased to announce our great partner and proud City Schools graduate, Mayor Brandon Scott.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Dr. S. I want to first thank you for your leadership and commitment to Baltimore students and families. Likewise, I want to express my appreciation for our board chair and the entire board and all the work that they do to support public education here in Baltimore. This is Baltimore. We know the most important thing anyone will ever know about you in Baltimore is where you went to high school. We are very proud of our high school. We won't talk about Councilman James Torrance High School today because he and I are rivals. But we know I am a proud alum of Baltimore's largest and best high school, Mervo. It's that immense amount of pride and love, that association of high schools in our great city. And that's why today is so important. Now, we believe that every young person deserves a school with state-of-the-art technology that provides classroom and learning spaces designed for a 21st century education, and dare I say, where they have air conditioning and can drink the water, Dr. S. I know firsthand what it means to go and have your life transformed by going to a renovated high school. I was at Mervo when it was renovated, and I often talk about how I never had an air-conditioned classroom until my 9th grade at Mervo. And now what you have seen through 21st century schools and what you'll continue to see as we move into this high school portion, so many more young people and families' lives being transformed. I dare someone to go out and find an urban school district that has renovated or built more new schools than Baltimore in recent years. You won't find it. This is a partnership, and my administration stands solely and strongly with city schools, our state partners, our city council, in the effort to build on that strong foundation of the 21st Century Schools program, because we know this program is meeting its mission to create a better Baltimore for today and a brighter future for tomorrow. The impact of this high school renovation program will be felt for generations across Baltimore. And we know the schools that have been chosen to be renovated do not need any more accolades. They do not need to be mentioned, but we know how important they are to Baltimore. Western High School, where the young ladies told me that if I didn't say that they produce only the best, that they would come for me. Baltimore Polytechnic Institute, which we know is a nationally recognized school. The Baltimore City College, as they say, who have produced so many great people, including senators, congresspeople. We know what these schools mean. And the historic Frederick Douglass High School, which was one of the first places where African Americans can even go in a city that Frederick Douglass spent so much time. We owe it to the legacy of those people, of those schools, of those alum, but most importantly to the future of Baltimore to make that investment. But the renovation of these schools is also an example of the vision that we have for Baltimore's future and our determination to meet every challenge and overcome every obstacle on our path to ensuring that we all reach our full potential. All progress begins with education, and excellence in education depends, among other things, on providing our teachers and staff and students with an environment that reflects the high standards they hold for themselves. We know the impact generated by the first phase of the 21st Century School program in neighborhoods across the city, and we look forward to seeing a similar impact and effect citywide from our high school renovation program. And now, she is not here. I am now going to turn it back over to Mrs. Davis. Thank you very much, and I cannot wait, Dr. S., to see the renovations begin.
Excuse me up front. Hello again. I want to clarify just 2 points before we move on to our Q&A. First of all, we're speaking about 5 schools. Help me out. 5 schools and 3,
Four buildings. Four buildings.
Buildings.
3 buildings, 5.
3, yes. So you heard it there. And those schools are Poly and Western, that's 1 building, Douglas and Briscoe, that's 1 building, and then City College. So there, all hearts and minds are clear. And I have one other item to add that our third speaker who can attend today, she would have said. In order to make these historic investments in our schools possible, as well as to keep everyone safe and ensure we're making progress, students will move into swing space locations during this period of time, just as we have done with other 21st century school projects. In the coming weeks, we will be hosting meetings with each school community to share details and talk through specifics of the swing space plan for each school. And you can find a list of those meetings on our website, baltimorecity.schools.org. That's it. Now we're going to go.
1 second, sir. We forgot one thing.
Oh, you have the floor.
I just wanted to come back to mention how important it is about the swing space because we have evolved in the way that we renovate schools. So we talked about my time at Mervo and us having the school renovated, but we were there the entire time. That meant that we had to endure construction, dare I say, things that we probably took into our bodies that we should not have to. And it's important that we now have a school system and partners that understand that in order to provide these young people with the best renovation experience, that we should move them out, get it done quicker, and move them back so they don't have to endure many of the things that we had to endure in the past.
All right. Now we're going to go to our Q&A. Again, to be clear, we are here to speak about the high school project. For other media inquiries, please feel free to reach out to the communications team or for any other departments or any of the organizations. But with that said, let's get the party moving. Tim, you're up first.
What's the timeline in terms of when we're going to see the first building renovation? What school, and just kind of the timeline?
Hi, I'm Allison Perkins-Cohen. I'm Chief of Staff for City Schools. So I'm hoping I can do this correctly I don't have it in front of me. But in 2020, the design phase starts now, Tim. So for Frederick Douglass building and for City College, the design phase starts now. So that's for the next 2 years from now until 24. So 24, I love Cindy giving me the heads up in the back. From 2024, 26 for the next 3 years, City will be in swing space, as will Frederick Douglass. So it takes, Frederick Douglass will be in for 2 years. Sorry, it's a smaller school. City will be in for 3 years. It's a major project. Poly Western, the design starts the following year, not this year, but next year. And so they will move into their swing space in 2025. They'll be there for 3 years as well because it's a large building.
Introduce yourself.
Yeah, Kate Lillian with the Baltimore City. What will the swing space look like? Could you give us an example? Are we talking trailers or?
There'll be schools. So City will be swinging into what we know as the Thurgood Marshall Building or Vanguard Furley Elementary right now, as those 2 schools will be moving into their renovated homes in a few years. Those are actually in my neighborhood. Douglass will be moving into Garrison Middle School, and then Poly Western will be going into Northwestern after Cross Country, which is being built brand new right now, moves back into its new building.
And I do just want to acknowledge Principal Cindy Harcum from the City College, who is here with us, and all principals have been very instrumental in planning the new building space, the renovations, and the transition to transitional space during this. So.
Chris, go ahead.
I just have 2 questions for Dr. Santelises about
Sure,
the
Chris.
new schools and school safety.
Yeah.
So we've seen a lot of news lately about school violence and fights in schools. We had a situation at Mervo earlier this school year, and it has renewed interest in school police officers carrying firearms.
Sure.
As the leader of the school system, do you believe that school police officers should be armed inside of these new schools or any school?
So, Chris, what I would say to you, by the way, good morning, good to see you. What I would say with regards to that is, one, we know that that's a legislative issue. What I have said and gone on record as saying is that we have one of the best school police forces in the nation. They continue to keep our schools safe. The school board, my bosses, are the ones that actually will vote on that issue. My job is to make sure that our school police have what they need to be effective. We will operate within the parameters of the law. We'll continue to do that. We've always done that. But I think what's important to point out is that our school police actually have trained other police officers who work in school buildings because of the kinds of relationships they build. And I don't want to speak on behalf of Chief Akil Ham, but I will say that our ethos has been, it is in the grounding of relationships that whether school police are armed or not, form the foundation of safety within our schools. But to put it bluntly, that's not my charge to decide that. The school board has had discussion on that, made recommendations. There's a long history of that, both prior to my assuming this position, and I am assuming long after. That'll be a point of discussion.
Do you have an opinion? This can be a matter of...
If you want to go out to coffee and talk about it, Chris, we can, but I'm standing here right now as the Chief Executive Officer of Baltimore City Public Schools. And this issue, and I'm sure as a reporter, you have done the research on it, Chris, that this is a decision that the Baltimore Board of Commissioners makes. I have talked to Chief Ham about both ways, because there have been at least twice during my tenure in city schools that this issue has come up. And we're prepared to go the way of the legislature. But as of now, I sit in leadership. My job is, regardless of the legislation, what the Board of Commissioners, whose job it is to actually make that decision in terms of how they're going to recommend, and then legislators will have to vote on that. So that's where I am. I've been fairly consistent about that if you look over the trajectory of my tenure, and that's been my position, that either way the legislature goes, we are prepared to continue to work to keep young people in school safe.
And just
All right,
a
Chris,
second question about
Chris,
school safety.
all right,
You mentioned your
Chris.
tenure.
It's all right, Andre.
And under your tenure, the ranks of the police force in Baltimore City are
Yeah.
down by almost half. You have half the officers now that you had when you became CEO. Does that concern you?
So what I would say is we have vacancies right now within school police. So I'm talking specifically about school police. You'd have to have a conversation with Commissioner Harrison about the entire city police force. That is not under my purview. I will say we have about 5 to 7 vacancies right now, which for us is absolutely felt. We've talked about with FOP in terms of negotiations around salary and other incentives we can build in to recruit. But frankly, Chris, as you do the research, which I'm sure you will do, what you'll see is that police officers are facing some of the same challenges that many occupations are. Where we felt it most strongly this year was teachers. Again, I've spoken about that, and that had as much to do with increased funding as it did any kind of, lack of pool for us. That was the main driver of it. But with school police, we're about at 5 to 7 down. I think that might be a little lower now. I'd have to circle back with Chief Ham to see where we are. But we talk fairly frequently about what we need to do to make sure that school police is fully staffed.
I have a question in regards to 21st century, and that person may not know the success of it. Why was it important for it to stay, you may have mentioned this, to stay under this umbrella? What are the benefits to having it under 21st century?
So I think one of the benefits, Tim, of having it under 21st century is, one, we have the infrastructure already in place, as you noted, from the success of the first wave of 28 schools, right? So that allowed us to keep people like Cindy Smith in place, our team in place, Angela Alvarez, and our community engagement team really do a fabulous job in helping to ready schools for this transition. And so for us, the advantage of keeping this high school renovation under the 21st Century Program is it means all of that learning that we've developed over the past decade plus will now be brought to bear in the building of these historic high schools.
And I'll just add to that, Tim, too, that you hear a lot about city schools and construction and renovation and not doing what's right by the children and families as far as buildings. I just think it's good to remind everyone that now the entire state's school construction program is going to be based off of what we have in 21st century in Baltimore City.
And by the way, I do want to shout out Michael McBride, who I also didn't see earlier, who's been very instrumental in the design of the first phase of the buildings, along with the full team. Next question. Andre, am I taking them or you?
Good morning, this is WMAC News. I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about the communication with students and parents about this transition, and also what transportation might look like for students in the state.
Well, you know how to put your finger on the pulse of the challenges, so I give you credit for that. So one of the things we have been doing is having extensive meetings with the school community. This is where, frankly, the expertise of the school leaders, of our community engagement team, of, frankly, the past community work that we have done in other kind of building closings and those things really come to bear. So we have started those meetings. Those meetings have already started prior to today's press conference. They will continue. Those are the places where the community, where families get to express concerns. In terms of transportation, I cannot give you what the detailed routes will look like, but what I can tell you is our transportation division under the leadership of Jacinta Hughes has just improved exponentially. And so it is challenging. We continue to work with MTA. The mayor, city council have been incredibly supportive in making sure that our public transportation continues to improve. And not that I don't want to go down a cow path either, but the reality is that one of the specters of kids getting to school on time in this city remains the responsiveness of public transportation. And it's just an area that I have to tell you, having worked in other urban centers, is particularly acute for our students. Today in the rain, I passed high school students standing out waiting for a bus that was already late. And I had my kids in the car and I thought about, would my Wile E. Coyote kid actually stay there waiting for 20 minutes with rain pouring down for a bus that's late? It continues to be an issue. You didn't ask that, but I said it anyway.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good morning, Alexis Taylor with the Afro-American newspapers. My question is how you will support students with IEPs and special needs as you move into the swing spaces and back into the physical buildings that are renovations.
No, that is a great question. And one of the things, and Chief Dabrowski, who's our Chief Academic Officer, is not here at this press conference, but one of the things that we're going to be benefiting from is some of the learning of the last 2 years when our students with disabilities were virtual. What that has allowed us to do, frankly, is do a lot of tightening around the connection between IEPs and what's actually happening in school, because those 2 years with the virtual space, we had to do a deeper dive on just how are we applying those, applying IEPs, and frankly, some missed services during that time. So I actually think, I don't have a plan to roll out for you now, but I actually think we're in a better position than we were even 2 to 3 years ago based on what we've learned and some of the shoring up that we've had to do because of that.
And I have one thing that I left out. Actually, Western is going to Chickapin for their swing space. Great. All right, cool. Thank you.
How much is the maintenance backlog right now?
I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah, I'm not sure enough.
In terms of dollars or, yeah. Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
get back to you.
All right, great.
All right,
Is that
thank you all
everything?
for your time.
Thank you.